My name is Diane, and for 10 years, my own children believed I abandoned them. I let them believe it, because the truth was something I decided they were too young to carry. I was wrong about how long I could carry it alone. It started on an ordinary Tuesday in October, the kind of day you don't remember until years later you realize it was the last normal one. I was 34, married to Richard for 11 years, 2 kids. Emma was 7, Jason was 5. From the outside, we looked like the family in the brochure. Nice house in Oakhurst, Richard sold commercial real estate, I taught 2nd grade. From the inside, it was different. Richard didn't hit me. I want to be clear about that, because for years I told myself that meant it wasn't serious enough to leave over. But there are other ways to break a person. He controlled every dollar that came into that house, even the ones I earned. He timed how long I was gone at the grocery store. And when Emma was 6, I found bruises on her arm that she said came from Daddy playing too rough. I confronted him. He told me I was imagining things, that I was an unfit, paranoid mother who needed to see someone about her anxiety. I started keeping notes, dates, what Emma said, what I saw. I photographed everything with the timestamp visible. I didn't know yet what I'd do with it. I just knew I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. 6 months later, Jason came home from a weekend at his grandmother's with a fading mark on his back. He was 5. He couldn't explain it clearly. That was the night I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Voss, and she told me something I never forgot. In this county, judges see hundreds of he said, she said abuse claims a year. Without a documented pattern, not one incident, a pattern, the courts often default to preserving the father's access. If you accuse him now and lose, you could end up with less time with them than you have today. So I made a choice that I have spent every day since defending to myself. I didn't go to court and accuse him outright. Instead, I filed for an uncontested divorce. I gave Richard the house. I agreed to primary custody going to him, with me getting every weekend. Everyone who heard the terms thought I was either a fool or a monster. A mother who walks away from her kids for a house she didn't even want. What no one knew was that Patricia and I had a plan that had nothing to do with paperwork tricks. Every single weekend, I wrote down what the kids told me, dated and detailed, and mailed copies to Patricia's office so there'd be a record outside my own house. Twice a year, I paid out of pocket for the kids to see a family therapist, Dr. Ellis, telling Richard it was just to help them adjust to the divorce. It wasn't. Dr. Ellis knew exactly what we were building. And she kept her own clinical notes the entire time. It was a decade-long, unglamorous case built one weekend at a time. Not a shortcut, just years of showing up and writing everything down. I told almost no one, not my sister, not my own mother, because the moment I said, Richard hurt them, out loud, to anyone who might repeat it, he would know I was building a case, and he would find a way to cut my weekends down to nothing. So for 10 years, I was the mother who left. At school pickup, the other mothers went quiet when I walked up. Emma's teacher, my former colleague, once said to my face, "I always wondered what kind of woman gives up her kids for a house." I said nothing. I just nodded and drove home and cried in my car for 20 minutes before I could see straight enough to make dinner. Richard remarried 2 years after the divorce. His new wife, Kristen, made it her mission to make sure Emma and Jason called her Mom. At Emma's 10th birthday party, Kristen introduced herself to the other parents as their mother. Their birth mother isn't really in the picture. I was standing right there. I smiled and handed Emma her present. That same year, Emma finally asked me the question I'd been dreading. We were in the car, and out of nowhere she said, "Did you leave because of me? Because I was bad?" I nearly pulled over. I told her the only version I could tell a 10-year-old. I left because grown-up things got complicated, and it was never, ever because of you. She accepted it, the way kids accept the answers adults give them. But I saw something close in her eyes that day, and it haunted me for years, that she'd stopped asking after that. And I didn't know if that meant she believed me or just gave up expecting a real answer. Every year after that, on our weekends, I asked small, careful questions. Nothing leading, nothing coached, exactly as Patricia and Dr. Ellis instructed. "How's home? Everything okay with Dad?" Most years they said fine. I told myself maybe it had stopped, that leaving had been enough on its own. Then Emma turned 15. One Saturday in March, she came for her weekend and wouldn't look at me. That night, after Jason went to sleep, she sat on the edge of my bed and told me Richard had grabbed her wrist hard enough to leave a mark 2 weeks earlier over a curfew argument. And that when she'd told Kristen, Kristen said, "Your father works hard for this family. Don't make him look bad." I felt something in me that had been frozen for 10 years finally move. I called Patricia that night, and for the first time I told her, "I'm ready. Use everything." The custody modification case took 4 months, not 4 minutes. There was a court-appointed evaluator who interviewed Emma and Jason separately, twice each. Dr. Ellis submitted 10 years of clinical notes. Patricia entered every photograph, every dated letter, every weekend report I'd mailed her since Emma was 7 years old. Richard's attorney argued I'd waited too long, that a decade of silence undermined my credibility. Patricia's answer was simple. I hadn't been silent. I'd been documenting, quietly and consistently, for 10 years because the system itself had told me that's what it would take to be believed. Before the final hearing, Emma went looking through my filing cabinet for a birth certificate she needed for a school trip. Instead, she found the folder Patricia had returned to me for safekeeping. Copies of everything. Photos of bruises she barely remembered. Letters in my handwriting from when she was 7. Dr. Ellis's notes with her own childhood words quoted back to her. She read every page sitting on my kitchen floor. When I got home from work, she was standing in the hallway holding the folder, and she asked me one question. "Is this why you said it was never about me? In the car? When I was 10? I sat down across from her, and for the first time, I told my daughter everything. That I'd lied to her that day in the car because she was 10, and I didn't think she could carry the real answer yet. That I'd spent every weekend for a decade writing things down, so that when she was old enough, there would be proof waiting, instead of just my word. Emma didn't cry right away. She just sat with it for a long time. Then she asked if she could speak at the hearing. At the final hearing, Emma testified. Not one line and done. She sat through nearly 40 minutes of questions, from Patricia and then from Richard's attorney, describing the wrist, describing Kristen's silence, describing what it had been like to grow up being told her mother didn't want her. The evaluator's report, entered into evidence, concluded there was a clear, sustained pattern of documented concern spanning a decade. The judge granted me primary custody, with a formal finding entered against Richard, and ordered continued therapy for both kids through Dr. Ellis. It wasn't instant, and it wasn't clean. Richard's attorney is still appealing part of the ruling. Kristen didn't come to court. Richard sat very still and didn't look at either of us when we left. Emma moved in with me 2 weeks later. Jason, 13 now, asked to come live with us 6 months after that, once he understood what those weekends had actually been for. Last month, Emma asked me if I regretted lying to her in that car when she was 10. I told her the truth, that I regret it more than almost anything, and that I still don't know if there was a better answer to give a child that young. I don't regret the 10 years of writing everything down. I don't regret the weekends. But I regret every version of the truth I had to hide from her along the way, because she deserved better than a mother who had to lie to protect her. The other mothers at school pickup don't go quiet around me anymore. Now they just say hello, and I say hello back, and none of us mention the 10 years it took to get here. If you've ever had to let people believe the worst about you to protect someone you love, I want to know. How long did you carry it before someone finally understood?